Hey friends, I need to start with a simple, honest sorry. I went quiet after September, no episode, no quick note, just silence. I had personal things going on and I had to step away for a bit. Still, I know you gave me your time and trust, and I didn't show up. I am extremely sorry for being AWOL. If you are new here, welcome to US History Understanding This Country by Irregular Mind. I am Santosh Janardhan, your host. If you have been with me from the start, thank you for waiting. Today is not a new chapter episode. It is a reset, a warm up, a way to get our feet moving again. This is a recap that brings us back up to speed, right up to where the episode 41 ended. After this, we go back to regular episodes for rest of this series. And I'll keep it simple because many of us are listening while driving on a highway, making dinner, or squeezing in a walk after work. Alright, let's rewind the story. Long before anyone used the word United States, this land already had people, language, trade, farming, and politics. Indigenous nations lived across forests, deserts, coasts, and plains. They built societies that fit their land season by season. This matters because it frames the first big truth of the series. The United States grows on land that already had homes, borders, and history. In the late 1400s, European powers chased trade routes and wealth. Columbus's 1492 voyage linked two worlds that had been apart for a long time, and it triggered a chain reaction of conquest, settlement, and forced labor. Plants and animals moved across oceans. Along with that, diseases did too. For many indigenous communities, disease alone was a disaster on a scale that is hard to imagine today. Along the Atlantic coast, colonies grew into towns and farms. Jamestown begins in 1607 and other English settlements follow. Over time, slavery becomes a central part of the colonial life and colonial money, especially in the South. By 1700s, the colonies are used to local assemblies and local arguments. Ideas about rights and limits on power spread through enlightenment, mixing with religious movements and local politics. After the French and Indian War, Britain tries to tighten control and collect more money. New taxes and new rules hit daily life, and protest spread. Boston becomes a symbol of rising anger. Conflict in the streets, conflict in the ports, conflict in the newspaper. Fighting breaks out in 1775. In 1776, the Declaration of Independence sets the case in words. Government should answer to the people, and rights should not depend on a king. Then comes the hard part, turning a declaration into a real country. The war is long, it is brutal, and it depends on both battles and diplomacy. Foreign support, especially from France, matters a lot. In 1783, the war ends with the Treaty of Paris, and new nation stands on its own. The first system, the Articles of Confederation, is too weak to run a growing country. In 1787, founding fathers write the Constitution. It creates a stronger federal government, checks and balances, and a court system. The Bill of Rights followed in 1791. From the start, a long argument begins and never really ends. How much power should the federal government have, and how much power should the states keep? In 1803, the Louisiana Purchase doubles the size of United States on paper and pushes the nation's eyes west. Then comes the War of 1812. It is tied to conflict at sea, trade pressure, and violence on the frontier. Washington, D.C. is burned, Fort McHenry is attacked. The words of the Star Spangled Banner are written in that moment. After the war, the country gets a short wave of confidence and growth. Roads and canals expand, markets grow, politics feel calmer for a moment. American politics changes in 1820s. The election of 1824 ends in a fight over legitimacy. Andrew Jackson's rise signals a new style, louder campaigns, wider voting for white men, and stronger presidency. Westward movement also changes. It becomes more than families looking for land, it becomes a national policy. In 1830, Congress passes the Indian Removal Act. It drives forced displacement of native nations, especially in the southeast, so white settlements can expand. The Trail of Tears become one of the most painful outcome of that policy. If you are from India, you may relate to how land is not just a property, it is a memory, it is an identity, it is a family story. For many native communities, removal was not a simple move, it was a break in the bond between people and place. As the nation grows, reform movements rise too. Many people push for better schools, temperance, women's rights, and the end of slavery. At the same time, the United States expands again through war and settlement, adding new land and new conflicts. Each new territory brings the same explosive question: will slavery expand into it or not? Compromises try to delay the crisis. The delay does not heal the divide. The 1850s turn more violent in politics, in courts, and on the ground. The Dred Scott decision deepens the conflict by denying citizenship rights to black people and limiting Congress's power to restrict slavery in territories. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln wins the presidency. Southern states secede. The Civil War begins. Now, when we talk about Civil War, there are still arguments on the root cause. Whether it was fought over the issue of slavery or was it fought over the states' rights, whatever it might be. But slavery sits at the center in law, in wealth, and in political power. The Union wins, slavery is abolished with the 13th Amendment. Reconstruction follows, trying to rebuild the South and define freedom in law. The 14th and 15th Amendments expand citizenship and voting rights. A powerful backlash grows through violence, legal restrictions, and later segregation. After Reconstruction, the nation races to industrial growth. Railroads connect regions, factories multiply, big companies grow. Cities fill with new workers, including many immigrants. The country looks richer and bigger, but life is often harsh for laborers, and power concentrates at the top. In the West, indigenous communities face continued land loss, broken promises, and forced assimilation efforts. In the early 1900s, progressivism rises as a response to corruption and unsafe conditions. Reformers push for cleaner government, safer food and work, and limits on monopoly power. The United States also becomes more active abroad, expanding influence in the Caribbean and Pacific and taking larger role in world affairs. The Great War, or later known as the World War I, reshapes global power. The US enters later, but its involvement matters and aftermath leaves deep tensions. The 1920s bring consumer culture and new music, but also fear, racism, and nativism. Then the stock market crashes in 1929 and the Great Depression ensues. Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal expands federal action through relief programs, job programs, and financial reforms, changing how many Americans think about government. World War II pushes the United States into full industrial mobilization after Pearl Harbor. The home front changes daily life. The country also commits a serious injustice through the internment of Japanese Americans. After 1945, a new rivalry begins with Soviet Union. The United Nations forms. Containment becomes US policy. Europe is rebuilt through the Marshall Plan. Tensions becomes the Cold War. The Korean War breaks out in 1950 and ends in 1953 with an armistice, leaving the peninsula divided and the Cold War hotter than before. Back home, the post war boom brings new homes, new highways, new TVs, and massive baby boom. The GI Bill helps many veterans with education and housing, but access is not equal. The housing policy often deepens segregation. Episode 41 set the stage for civil rights movement by showing how it grows from decades of pressure, not from one single movement. After World War II, many black Americans push double V idea: victory against fascism abroad and victory against racism at home. President Truman desegregates the US military in 1948 through Executive Order 9981. In 1954, the Supreme Court rules in Brown v. Board of Education that segregated public schools are unconstitutional. Resistance follows. In 1957, Little Rock becomes a national test, and federal authority is used to protect students who are trying to attend the desegregated school. Then comes a moment that looks small on the surface but changes the country's rhythm. Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat in Montgomery. The bus boycott lasts more than a year. Martin Luther King Jr. rises to the national view, and organized nonviolent action becomes defining strategy. Guys, that is exactly where we paused. So, yes, I was gone for a while, but I am back now. Thank you for staying subscribed. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for coming back to this story with me. In the next episode, we move forward from these early victories into larger civil rights storm, the bigger confrontations, bigger stakes, and the choices that shape the country we live in today. And here is my humble and shameless appeal to all listeners. Please subscribe, like, and share the podcast so that we are on the path of growth as a community. I owe you big time. Until next time, it is Santosh Janardhanan signing off.